Welcome back to Lost in Roshar, the ultimate journey through the Stormlight Archive. I'm Christian.
And I'm Hemi. Today we are diving into Spanreeds that you've seen. You like that?
Keeping it fresh.
But today it's going to be a little bit of a looser episode, guys. We're going to be reading your Spanreeds, and we're going to be reading your theories and just some general comments. And we will be having full spoilers for the Stormlight Archive. We might talk about some other Cosmere works, but we're going to try to keep that relatively spoiler free. So if you haven't caught up on Stormlight, we would recommend that you come back at a later date. For everyone else, welcome back to Lost in Roshar. Christian, I feel like I've asked you this already. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm getting a sense of deja vu, mate. I'm good. It's the morning in Australia. Wow, really lots of deja vu. Guys, we have to restart the recording. Yeah. So this banter, absolutely fabricated, but we're gonna go with it. No, it's the morning, which is nice. It's a nice change from my midnight Stormlight sessions. Mm-hmm. So it's good. I feel fresh. I've had my coffee. I'm excited to go tinfoil mode. I want to get weird with the theories. I want to hear what the listeners have to say. The response has been overwhelming, man. How have you been perusing through the email?
Oh, man. So we made a little shout out saying, thanks for so many. We underestimated you, but still you can send in more. And then people were like, okay, bet. And they did it. And the inbox is overflowing. So yeah. One, awesome. We love it. Continue to send stuff at lostandroshar@gmail.com. We really do love it. We will not get through every email we received today, but we will try to get through as many as possible. And what we will probably do is have other episodes randomly sprinkled in, to cover some of these Spanreeds, but also maybe sprinkle them into our normal episodes as well. So, next episode, when we actually end up going into the interludes before part 3, maybe we'll throw in, if we have some time, a couple of these, especially if they actually coincide with what we're about to read. I think that's a great idea. So we're figuring it out as we go. We're shooting from the hip on this episode a little bit here, and we hope that you'll have patience with us. But I'm excited. Were you shocked at how many emails we had? Because
I was totally shocked. Yeah. Like I keep saying, I'm always surprised when people listen to this thing, or like I see the number and I'm like, that's an okay number. But just like a few handful of emails will make such a bigger impact than like a few thousand views on YouTube. Seeing what people have to say and being like, oh, I listen to this in my car. I listen to this on my way to work or on my walks. It's like, oh, wow, this is cool what we're doing here. It's nice.
Definitely. Yeah. And it puts, there's people behind those views, right? And then those people end up connecting. And that's what honestly makes it special. So also, let's be honest, Christian, there's some people listening to this right now that are a lot smarter than us at everything that's in the Cosmere.
Jimmy, come on.
At least
I doubt that's true. I think we're at the top of the food chain here, mate.
I read some of these emails.
I imagine us atop a mountain and everyone else is just listening as we preach our gospel. That's how I picture this.
our book of Sanderson. Yes.
Yes.
I don't know, man. I opened up some of these emails and I couldn't read some of them. I was like, what are these words that are capitalized?
So many capital letters. I'm blinded. Oh man, it can get like that sometimes. Like we spoke about, Secret Project 4 came out and I've started reading it. Guys, oh my God, if you're a Stormlight fan, get this book. But at first I was taken aback I was blinded by the capital letters and I started to get a little scared. I'm like, how many capital letters are we going to do, man? Because at some point you get a little overwhelmed, but I've settled into it and I'm okay. How do you feel about this aspect of the Cosmere as we get more like methodical and more like quantifiable? I guess the magic becomes a bit more like mathematical. Does it lose something with that for you?
I don't necessarily know if it loses something, but it does become something different. And I even think in one of our Spanreeds, someone talked about how they used to play spot Hoid, and it used to be really difficult. And now it's very easy to spot Hoid because sometimes he's the one telling the story. And I do think some of that loses its magic for me. Like I like things that kind of fly underneath the radar, but we're entering in, I think Sanderson said, quote, like he's taking the gloves off when it comes to the Cosmere because like it's time to kick things up a notch. And I think doing this show enables me to appreciate it more than I would have if I was just reading it like I read all my other fantasy books, which is, as it comes out or whenever I can get to it. I think that definitely helps out having you and the listeners and the commenters and the emailers, everyone around. You feel like you're part of something. Like we're all trying to figure this thing out. So it's a bit of a puzzle. Having concrete answers is a good thing. Sometimes I like things to be a little bit more ambiguous. I think my biggest issue is that I didn't back the Kickstarter. So I am sitting here wondering all what's going into Secret Project 4 and what has your eyes lighting up like fireworks when you were like, have you read it? And I'm like, I didn't get a chance to yet. So I need to get my hands on it. I know it'll be out for the general public eventually. I got Yumi, for instance, like off Dragonsteel. I got the nice edition after the fact. So I'm hoping they have some extra copies. And I'll probably get the audiobook because the audiobook is actually done by a different narrator than usual.
Do you know who it is? Or
I can't remember, but it's an actor, if I'm not mistaken. And I heard Henry Cavill was supposed to do Yumi or Frugal Wizard or something, but
wait, seriously?
I'm being dead serious. No, I heard, and maybe someone's memeing. I might be just getting trolled, but someone had said that Henry Cavill was supposed to do one of the audiobooks, but his schedule didn't work out. So he wanted to have like guest narrators for each Secret Project.
Oh, is that because he was filming as Vin in the Mistborn adaptation? Henry was tied up. He's like on the phone in his little bob cut wig, and he
actually had mercury poisoning from just eating mercury. He's like, is this one of the metals? Like, they're like, no, Henry, stop eating that. Why are you eating so much tuna? Stop.
I did hear that was going to be like celeb sort of narrators. That's cool.
Yeah. So I honestly can't remember who this Secret Project 4 narrator is, but he's famous. People love him. I'm
nice.
Sure. If he's famous, people gotta love him, right? Isn't that how that works?
Yeah, pretty sure.
Yeah, so I'll probably get the audiobook when it comes out.
Nice. It is. It's a roller coaster, and I've got the ebook, right? So the thing about ebooks is Control F. That's a thing. And do you know how hard it was for me not to be like Control F Roshar? Like the second I opened this book, I've resisted. But let's just say you don't really need Control F when it comes to this book. It is very like Roshar adjacent. Let's just put it that way. And it's very exciting.
I think I'll have Yumi finished by the time I can get my hands on Secret Project 4. But like the biggest thing for me is like, if I get that before I finish Yumi, I'm probably going to put Yumi on hold to read Secret Project 4 because I think I care more about the implications of the bigger Cosmere stuff with Secret Project 4. So we'll see. Yumi might be on the chopping block.
Yeah, if it makes you feel better, dude, I straight up dropped Yumi into a ditch. And I was like, get out of my way. Yeah, I'm like, dude, I'm all about Roshar, okay? Get your pebbles out of here. I want the rocks. Give me the rocks. I will get back to Yumi eventually.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fine book. It's just one of those things where if something's up front with its Rosharian influence, I'm going to be there for it. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. A quick update, I guess, from Sanderson. Obviously, Secret Project 4 is out, which we're talking about, but also it says that he is 78% done, which is 3% more than the last time I told you with Stormlight 5. What does that really mean? I don't know.
Probably like 50,000 words or something, judging by the size increases of these books.
I suppose so.
It's not that much, but it's look. Is that the first draft? Is that what 100 is? The draft? Okay,
I believe so. Yeah. So there's that, and then there's like a bazillion merchandise boxes you can go buy on Dragonsteel. Apparently, I don't know. He was announcing so many things. I was like, I don't know what these are, but I know I probably want them.
Yeah.
But I'm trying not to spend a bunch of money right now, so I just kind of zoned out. So go check out Dragonsteel to buy more stuff, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the Cosmere is just going to be like a money printing factory. Can you imagine? Once these adaptations come out, it's game over. If they're already doing this much with just books, oh my gosh.
When do we get the Stormlight Funko Pops?
Right? We got Kelsey and Fortnite. I can't get a Kaladin Funko Pop. What's going on?
I think I have a Funko Pop. Like everybody's got a Funko Pop. Why can't we get a little?
I'm not into Funko Pops, dude.
I'm not.
I see the Funko Pops. I'm like, nah.
The only ones I like are the author ones. I have a George R. R. Martin one and a Stephen King one.
Oh, that's funny.
And that's because no one else is ever going to make a George R. R. Martin action figure. So I was like, this is perfect.
Yeah, I could get behind a George Funko Pop.
Oh, it's incredible.
I don't know what it is about them that I'm just like, I don't. They give me those like McDonald's Happy Meal kind of vibes.
Dang, coming for the throat. At least
I'm sorry, I offended like half the listeners.
Yeah, at least one of our listeners is sitting next to a wall of Funko Pops and just took their hand and just swiped through the middle. They all came down.
Yeah, I don't know. This is coming from the guy who backed the Stormlight Figures Kickstarter in like 0.5 seconds. So, I'm not on a high horse.
Throwing stones from a glass house, possibly.
Yeah, I'm just, it's just like nerds fighting other nerds at this point. We're all on the same team, guys.
Nerds have
all
kind
get
of
along.
taken over, right? It's just about which nerd you're in.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Like Star Wars fans hate other Star Wars fans, and then Star Trek people come around and they band together. Good old fashioned tribalism. I love to see it.
You know what's going to happen? It's fantasy Cosmere versus sci-fi Cosmere fans. That's what's going to happen.
Ooh.
I'm going to be like, dude, remember Warbreaker? They're like, no, remember like X7 2000, the latest Cosmere novella
by Dan Wells.
Yeah, it's like we will be the OGs, man.
What if Dan Wells starts writing a bunch of like Cosmere novels and people like them more than Brandon's?
Oh, I don't. That's the everything collapses at that point.
Yeah, could there become a schism?
Or maybe there's like a author battle. It's like who can write the best novel.
Well, you could look at it this way. You could make one. Brandon is the Old Testament, and then Dan Wells is the New Testament.
Imagine what author do you want to write a Cosmere book the most? Who do you want to take it on?
All right, this is just from the hip. China Mieville. China Mieville writes in the weird fiction genre and has written fantasy books and many other things. And he is just so weird with his world building. Yeah. I actually think that his Baslag series, while it might not be the most accessible to everyone because of the way it's written, the world of Baslag is one of the coolest and most underrated fantasy worlds of all time. There are swords that can cut through reality. There are bug people. There are perpetual motion trains going around. Whoa. I mean, there is some really heady stuff in the Baslag series. And I think if you took him, and China Mieville's writing, in my opinion, is like top notch, like the best. And if he were to write like a Stormlight tie-in novel, I'd lose my mind.
Yeah, man. The world building is the strongest aspect of the Cosmere and Sanderson. Like, say what you will about these standalones, how we're sometimes lukewarm on some of the writing and the pacing and stuff. The worlds are always interesting.
Yeah, his imagination is very inspiring, to be honest. Yeah. Like, I find the way that he's able to not just like figure out his way through the Cosmere, like I don't know how he keeps it straight, but just even the way that he's able to connect, the character arcs with the world and the magic system. Like, it always feels like a cohesive package. And very rarely do I think like a lot of stuff feels out of place in Sanderson books. So even whenever I'm not high on them, like Alloy of Mid, it still feels like it's a Brandon Sanderson product. You know what I'm saying? Like it feels like it's his. So, if he's your favorite author, you got to be eating good right now. I couldn't imagine. It'd be amazing.
Sorry, I tuned out once you said Alloy of Mid.
Yes.
Oh, the only person with a Sanderson podcast who can just say Alloy of Mid and no one will be upset with you.
Listen, it is what it is. I'm already on my way out. I already got my pink slip in the mail. It's over.
Hey, I saw an email that said "Keep Jimmy" in all capitals. And I took it to heart. The closest I felt to like Cosmere level world building is One Piece. I'm gonna be that guy where every island is.
You don't want to start this, Christian.
But dude, every island is so unique and so well thought out, and it all connects. It's like it's a Cosmere unto itself.
One Piece has the best world building of all time, probably.
Oh.
But this isn't a One Piece podcast.
No. We digress.
I just finished Post Ennies.
Oh, we'll talk later.
Oh my god, I lost my mind.
It's insane. Guys, if you love Stormlight and the Cosmere, read One Piece. You'll forever be grateful.
It is so good.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And same sort of like adventurous energy. If you're liking this kind of like tongue-in-cheek Sando, especially that we're getting lately with Yumi and the new projects, is a bit more of a cheeky voice, then you're going to love One Piece.
And if you're a fan of Dragon Ball like I was, and Dragon Ball Z and GT, even though it's terrible, and Super and all that other stuff, like I feel like One Piece is like the natural progression of that, of shonen. It just, and this is coming from someone that Dragon Ball Z is the most formative media in my life. Yeah. I think One Piece is just a better version of it, like much better and bigger. But yeah, I could turn this into a One Piece podcast
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, me too. So, all right, let's bust open some Spanreeds, mate. My gemstone's glowing. I've lined up the thingy, whatever the technology is, and I'm ready. Oh, dude, nothing gets me more fired up than a good Stormlight theory.
Well, we got a couple of them here. Some of these are extremely long. So if I'm doing, we might break them up and talk about them as I read through them because, dyslexia, all that good stuff. So I have my good days and bad days, but we're going to start out with Alec, who sent us an email actually a couple weeks back. This is one of the first ones of this bunch. And Alec says, "Hey guys, absolutely love the podcast. So first and foremost, I'd like to thank both of you for doing it. You both putting this together is a team up I didn't know I was waiting for, and I'm always excited for each new episode." Well, Alec, me and Christian have been really good friends for years, and we knew we wanted to do something together, and this podcast made the most sense, honestly. This was it. We were waiting for something to make sense for us, and this kind of just jumped into our minds, I guess.
Yeah, the second I accepted the podcasting idea, I was so sort of lukewarm on it, because I was such a visual guy that was kind of my brand. Like, oh, watch his videos because they look really good. So podcasting felt like a really bad move, but I'm glad we ended up here. It's all working out.
I think it works very, very well. Plus we get to talk weekly, which is nice.
Yeah.
So continuing on, Alex says, "I had some thoughts I wanted to share. Some are unrelated to Roshar, like the fact that I'm mad at Christian for reminding me about the worm scene from the King Kong movie. I now remember that haunted me for years. Others are actually kind of cool." So this is some thoughts on the Purelake. And he says the Purelake is very unique in its location, where people in the physical realm and Spren in the cognitive realm are consistently overlapping in the same spot. There's water, meaning there's land in Shadesmar, and it's shallow enough for someone in Roshar to walk in. I think that kind of close alignment is the reason that there's so much wacky stuff in the Purelake, and I definitely think it's going to be super important later. I would very much agree with that. And then Alec goes on just to talk about the safe hands a little bit, and actually ends up relating them to the FromSoft game Bloodborne. And I had to read this because I love FromSoft games very much. But he says, in Bloodborne, you notice that many of the hunters' pants have a belt around the right leg. It's kind of a banal little tidbit, simply adding to the fashion that only makes sense when you realize that they believed that in the beast blood crept up the right leg. I thought the concept was really cool because it recontextualizes the fashion in the game being more functional than you realized. So is it possible that the safe hand is some historical significance? I think we've been thinking about that for a while.
Yeah, I feel like I clarified that a few episodes back, unless it was off air. But it pretty much is. Pretty much. Yeah, we talked about it, how like to the feminine arts, they're one-handed sort of thing. So they covered up their other hand. Sanderson talked about it in a writing lecture.
Yeah.
But that's cool that it's in Bloodborne as well. That's a good thing about FromSoft games. You can read a lot through the item descriptions and stuff and learn about the world.
Yeah, a lot of people complain about lack of narrative in those games, but there's so much narrative. It's just, like the game, you have to work for it. It's not spoon-fed in any way, shape, or form. But Alec, we appreciate the comments and giving us some stuff to think about. And we appreciate you sending in the Spanreed, my friend.
Thank you.
Yes. The next one is from Fraser. It says, "Hi, Christian and Jimmy. Loving the podcast. They prompted me to reread Stormlight, but I couldn't slow myself to a read along, so I've already finished the way it's
Yeah.
You were the 80th person to say that.
Yeah.
Everyone has dusted us, but he has a question. He says, your early episodes picked up on the different blood colors that are apparent in Roshar. My initial thought was that Sanderson may try to link the color of blood to inherent metals from their powers to be associated with those metals. Human blood being red because of the iron content. However, that doesn't seem to follow with the allomantic furochemical hemalurgical powers for iron. I hope I said that right.
Nailed it.
Also for Kremlings, if the color was linked to the metal, then you'd have expected their blood to be orange or green and indicate an association with copper. But there's only one obscure reaction with chlorine, which turns copper purple. So it's a dead end. I did wonder if there was something in the color of vestiger. I always struggle with that word. Mm-hmm. Human red representing corrupted investiture, and none of the other colors seem to line up. So my question is really whether the blood colors are all significant other than just a method of differentiating between the branches of races. Are there any good fan theories on blood color? And if not, could Jimmy just make something up?
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, we might need you, Jimmy, because I typically, as cool as that is, it's cool that Fraser, you went to like all the avenues to figure out if the metals do connect to the blood color on Roshar or other worlds. That would be cool because he is connecting. The metals seem to almost be like one of the constants in the Cosmere that, or at least the magical property that is propagated the most throughout the Cosmere. So it makes sense to look into it. But in this case, with blood color, I think it's just blood color, like to differentiate between races. I don't, but it is also the Cosmere, and it's also Sanderson. So whilst that's what I think, it doesn't mean I'm right. I wouldn't be surprised if there was more to it. I just don't think it's necessarily to do with metals.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe it isn't something to do with metals, but maybe something bigger, maybe around shards, possibly. I think that is likely. Just a quick Google search says that a couple relevant words of Brandon that we can have. Someone said, does each shard have a favorite or special number or color? And Brandon responded, I would say that there are inclinations, but it's not perhaps as specific as you were thinking. As well as another questioner said, ruin and preservation were often represented in the Mistborn trilogy in terms of black and white. Is this imagery limited to that series, or do other shards also have an associated hue? So Sanderson goes on and says, essentially because of the dynamics that interplay between ruin and preservation, they choose to view themselves as black and white respectively. So that's why they're able to present that way. Also, because of only 2 shards on Scadrial, and their natures were opposites, after the long period of time they spent on the same planet, they kind of polarized. If similar things happened on another world in the Cosmere, similar coloring effect could happen.
That's interesting because, as I understand it, cultivation is related to green and lifelight. Honor is, I'm guessing, sort of like a white-blue thing with his Stormlight connection and the Stormfather. And I think odium is like reddish, goldish. Isn't it always red and gold he's described as?
Yeah, it doesn't. I'm seeing blue for devotion, red for dominion, black, violet for like honor, odium, or cultivation. Like it's like kind of a toss up.
Okay, interesting. Because violet seems to be the significant color, right? That we keep seeing in the blood, in the Kremlings. Yeah, it's interesting. I would lean towards it being more of a shard thing than a metal thing.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. And some people are even speculating that there's something about the rhythms that might play into it, which might be why, I can't say because of Stormlight 5 spoilers, and we're not doing that on this podcast, but I'm thinking of certain things that I've heard about. Who knows?
Yeah, color is important. Just generally in the Cosmere. Read Warbreaker if you don't believe me. But yeah, I think for now we'll just say probably a shard thing.
Yes, it seems that way. I could also see. Here's a crazy theory: they're actually all watercolors, and Hoid is painting a picture, and he is the narrator of the Stormlight Archive.
See, there we go. That's what the audience is.
That doesn't even make any sense. Let's be honest. Yeah. It doesn't actually.
But it makes sense to you, Jimmy, and that's what matters.
And that is all that matters.
To support you.
So big shout out. Sorry, I need to pull up the name. Fraser, thank you so much for that, Spanreed. And I want to read this one from William. He has a suggestion and a theory. The suggestion is for Jimmy. Have you ever heard of graphic audio? I know that's when I started listening to Michael and Kate read the book. It was hard for me when they switched narration and the character voices would change. Always seemed to take me out of the immersion. If you were interested, I would be happy to spot you the first book to see if it's something that you would like. I think it would be up your alley. Well, I do appreciate that. I have heard of graphic audio, but I have not tried it yet. So maybe I will. Was that Kaladin flying over your home in a plane?
It was. So I just saw him zooming above. He's just trying to sell that graphic audio edition.
He's just dropping off loot boxes from Dragonsteel like Santa Claus.
Oh man, have you listened to these graphic audio things?
I have not, but I am kind of curious, especially since we're doing a slow reread.
As cool as they are, it's almost overstimulating for me.
Really?
At least the parts but the parts I listened to was like Dalinar uniting all the realms and stuff. So it was pretty extra. It was just a lot of sound effects.
Yeah.
It's more like watching it feels like you're watching a movie with the TV turned off. That's what it feels like.
I'll tell you what, I'll give it a shot on the next set, not the interludes, because I want to read those super duper closely, but the next POV chapter I get, I will try it out.
I'd like to hear it for like a chill chapter.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
We only have so many chill chapters left. Yeah, we're going to be into it. So, but also William has a theory for Christian.
Oh, cool.
And this is mentioning something about Yumi. So if you haven't read Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, I would suggest maybe not listening to this. I don't think it really spoils anything from the book, but I just see that name mentioned here. So I just want to be careful with people who aren't trying to hear about Yumi. But after reading Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, I think I understand how heralds work. They are trapped on Brazy. I assume that's how it
It's Braze. The I is meant to be before there's Z.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
So they are trapped on Braze, and using their connection are able to transfer their consciousness to the shards of themselves that they have left on Roshar. As they cannot have children like normal people, it's likely they splinter themselves to create new shards that they are connected to and can swap into when they need to come back to Roshar. I think this would explain why Talon how do you say it? Talon?
Sanderson says Talon.
Talon.
For some reason, I say Talon just because it feels easier to say.
I like Talon. It's easier to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So his name is Talon now on Lost in Archive. Talon. That would explain why Talon has a shard blade when he shows up for the first time, as he manifested into the body of a shard bearer who was an ancestor of one of his splinters. It would also explain why Shallan and her brothers are all magically afflicted, as they are likely impacted by the same magic that corrupted and broke the heralds during the recreance. Just a cool theory I wanted to share. I hope you like it. Thank you for all the amazing content, and the podcast is great. Keep it up. Thank you, William. And I think this is not only a cool theory, I don't know if it's all that far-fetched.
Well, there's a lot of interesting things going on with the Herald. I've been Herald obsessed ever since I got into these books. I'm like, the Heralds, they must understand. There's a lot of weird things, right? I think they can, just to debunk one part, I think they actually can have children, because basically my life's work is to prove that Shallan's mom is a herald. So I think they can have children. And I don't, if you want to do some words of Brandon searching, Jimmy, as we do this, I'm pretty sure that Sanderson has kind of alluded to that fact that they can have children. It might just be a bit funky.
Checking now. It is possible for heralds to procreate and have children.
There you go. Bam. Bam. Absolutely. More confirmation of that glorious theory about Shallan. Regardless, though, I don't, and there is a funky thing of like, how do the heralds get their bodies back? That is the question, right? If they're going to get tortured or whatever, is it like, are they there? Is it there? Is it a cognitive shadow? Like, how does the exact mechanics of it work? And it's weird as we get more into the Cosmere, especially with these new secret projects. The smoke and mirrors are starting to dissipate a little bit. And we can probably get a better sense of what happens there. Interesting, like, well, he did say they can't have children like normal people, so I wonder if he just means it's different for them. Regardless, they splinter themselves to create new shards that they are connected to and swap. It kind of reminds me of like what the Fuse do. They're like, hey, let me borrow your body real quick.
Yes.
But I think that the heralds have a very consistent image, like as we see them in the prelude or whenever. For example, Nail, he's always looks the same with the crescent moon on his face. Like, that's him. So I don't think he's getting a new body every time, or like they're inhabiting, unless they're like copying, like 3D printing themselves. But that, I find that kind of unlikely. I think it's more just some weird like longevity-esque magic, like you're tortured but your body's kind of okay, sort of thing.
Maybe I'm just trying to think what psychological realm.
Yeah, but then at the same time, like he thinks about the hooks digging into him and everything. Kalak in the prelude, right? He thinks of like very physical torture. But he also says, so I'm reading this again, I think this would explain why Talon has a shard blade when he shows up for the first time, as he manifested into the body of a shard bearer who was an ancestor of one of his splinters. I think it's not a shard blade. I think it's his own honor blade, which is like tied to him because the heralds have their own blades. So whilst I think it's a cool, nifty theory, even though I don't have the full breadth of like how they get back into their own bodies, I'm fairly certain they're not using or creating copies or whatever. I think it's a bit more simple. As cool.
So you're
as
saying
is.
I jumped the gun, is what you're saying?
Yeah,
saying,
mate. You just got excited, and I'm here to crush all your dreams. That's what I'm here to do. I remember, yeah. I was like, I remember reading up on this. I don't have it all with me now, but when I was making videos on Heralds, like I remember Brandon kind of addressing this at some point and kind of I don't know what the word is, but like
debunk.
Yeah, debunking this a little. Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey, if it makes you feel any better, on the Assault by Spire podcast I am the Soul Crusher. People are like, "Do you think Rhaegar's alive?" I'm like, "No."
Yeah, I feel bad. I'm always like, "No, next." But hey, I'm always happy to be proven wrong. And this episode, it's like we're just having fun here. I don't have all my facts with me. I'm just here to chill and talk some theories. So yeah, if I don't know, I don't know.
Yeah, we're just getting some of that sweet interaction. And I mean, if anything, it does have us focusing on the question of like, how do the Heralds get back? I mean, that is a really big question mark.
Yeah, like the whole cognitive shadow thing and death in the Cosmere seems quite elusive. It's like, what is permadeath in this world? Kind of taking me back to One Piece. It's like, is anyone really dead? But it's like there is death, but it tends to be more of a consequence than a finality, if that makes sense.
I like that. Yeah. I like that phrasing. It sounds epic.
Yes. Or patented, copyright, lost in Roshar.
Well, thank you so much for that, Spanreed. And for the theory, we have another one here from Joseph or Brad. Seems like you might go by both of those. And this one's good. Speaking of epic, I think that this one is pretty neat, and we definitely will have to consider this one. But it says, first off, great show. It brings great value to the series. Hearing you both highlight details and theorize is very entertaining. Why, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, very kind of you. One of the most interesting aspects of the reread was noting how in the first two paragraphs of the Stormlight Archive, Brandon has intentionally focused on Thunerclasts. Kalak rounded a rocky stone ridge and stumbled to a stop before the body of a dying Thunerclast. The enormous stone beast lay on its side, rib-like protrusions from its chest broken and cracked. The monstrosity was vaguely skeletal in shape, with unnaturally long limbs that sprouted from granite shoulders. The eyes were deep red spots on the arrowhead face, as if he had been created by a fire burning deep within the stone. They faded. Even after all these centuries, seeing a Thunerclast up close made Kalak shiver. The beast's hand was as long as a man was tall. He'd been killed by hands like those before, and it hadn't been pleasant. And so I left to wonder, this is now the Spanreed speaking again, will Book 5, which focused heavily on the perspective of Szeth, and more importantly, the mysterious land of Shinovar, be when Brandon expands on these powerful stone creatures? The clues are evident in the prologue, when Szeth is clearly so insulted at the Alethi's lack of respect for stone. They were on the king's floor, 2 levels up, surrounded by rock walls, ceiling, and floor. That was profane. Stone was not to be trod upon. This is so good. I love this. I theorize that the reason for the stone shaman and reverence for stone from the Shin culture stems from the ancient understanding of the stone's ability to become sentient beings. The Thunerclasts being a combination of void spread, making these stone creatures into void bringers. I fully expect that Book 5 will give us more details on the connection between the Shin people and the breaking of the Oath Pact, explaining not only how they came to hold the Honor Blades, but also the knowledge of the Knights Radiant. Or maybe the Thunerclasts are just a bunch of Kremlings in a hive mind. Appreciate your thoughts, Brad.
See, Brad, you were talking in circles, and then you finally got there in the last sentence.
The Kremlings.
Is there more to say, mate? The Kremlings are everything and nothing at the same time. No, that's really cool. That's a really great email. And you know what my favorite part is? I was reading it as you read it. He's capitalized stone, and that's a real Stormlight fan right there.
That's right. we've talked about how significant stones and rocks seem to be, and I think yes. I think we will have a better idea of the Thunerclasts and why Seth sees stones so importantly. We're gonna get all that shit of our culture, and it's gonna be jarring because we're probably gonna get it a lot from the Kaladin perspective, who is a stranger, an outsider, just like us. Yeah, and that's how Brandon's gonna explore that, and he's gonna be able to give us a lot more information because of that.
100%. The part that's got me really excited. So I've got this whole thing like the stones or whatever have some sort of spren in them, or there is some sort of memory or sentience there. I don't know about sentience, but there's something going on, some sort of life within the stones. We've seen evidence of it. So when he says the Thunderclast being a combination of void spren, making these stone creatures into void bringers, like the fact that there's something to work with the stones to then awaken them, I like that a lot. Like the fact that it's like he's not making a monstrosity out of like rock buds, is he? Or like shard, what's it called? Shale bark.
Yeah.
It's the rocks. He's awakening the rocks. Because like those shale bark tendrils, you could see that being like awakened. You could have some Ent-esque Tolkien guys. But no, it's the rocks, mate. And there's a reason. And I think we're getting close to it here. That's a good theory.
It's really good. I mean, at the very least, I think that the Thunderclasts have some sort of significance in the past history of the Shinovar people, without a doubt.
Yeah, I would love to see, like, when was this? Because in my mind, I was almost kind of underwhelmed when I read Oathbringer. I'm like, oh, just a giant stone guy. Is that what we're doing? But there's like now that I understand the Cosmere a bit better, it's a lot more interesting because like stuff like that doesn't just happen. You know, it's very rare that something is awakened and turned into a creature.
I mean, stacking rocks is significant.
I've heard about that, eh? I'm telling you, the rocks and the stones on Roshar, there's like huge significance there, and spread the word. Spread the word to your friends.
I think it's becoming more evident as we see other Cosmere works, at least the ones that I've been reading lately. So,
I agree.
Very, very cool. Love the theory. Well written email, by the way. I really enjoyed reading through it. Had good pacing.
Yeah, great pacing. You know, better than Yumi, mate.
Better than me, for damn sure. So we have another Spanreed here, and this is actually kind of an amendment to one that we read about Kaladin taking up the Shard of Honor, and this comes from Noah. So he says, "Hello, Kremling and Captain Stormlight."
Captain Stormlight, I love it.
Aye, mate. I love it. He says, I would like to add or edit onto the theory last week about Kaladin taking up the Shard of Honor. My tinfoil idea is that we hear a lot of comments from Syl about how she and the other Honor Spren are pieces of divinity. What if the Honor Spren, probably the Stormfather as well, have to sacrifice themselves or their individuality to become the Shard of Honor? I think Dalinar would be the one to take on that shard. I think it would be a great parallel to Terra Odium. I think seeing those two continue their battles onto the bigger Cosmere battlegrounds would be amazing, especially with such differing philosophies. I think the arc of the Honor Spren going from refusing to help against the fight against Odium to the one sacrificing themselves would also be something Sanderson could do really well. Anyways, I love the podcast. Love the crazy theories. Keep up the good work, Noah. Noah, thank you so much. I liked your Spanreed about this prior, and I like it even more right now.
Cheers, Noah. Yeah, I think that's really like thematically really cool as well. Like you said, he does sacrifices really well. Sanderson he loves a good sacrifice for the greater good. And I could, like you said, the Honest Bren, the Stormfather, all these said people or entities, whatever, it looks like they are, splinters of the actual shard itself. So if you break a pot, you can pick up the shards and glue it back together, supposedly, right?
Yeah, I like the idea of losing individuality. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, goodbye, Kaladin. I must go. Oh. And he's like, still, I'll miss you. Like the Chief and Cortana scene. It's kind of like that.
Oh. Get me in the feels. I'm about to cry on a Tuesday.
See, that's another good quote. I'm about to cry on a Tuesday. I don't know why that's so great. specifically Tuesday out of all the days. But yeah, look, I like that. I like that they would have to. I like that sacrifice. It makes sense in the world, and the fact that you said, did he say Dalinar could take it up, and then it's almost like a Dalinar versus Taravangian god story.
Yeah, Dalinar versus Terra Odium.
Oh hell yeah, that's great, Dalinar. But all I keep thinking of is whenever it happens in Oathbringer and Dalinar's having his big moment, and he's like, "I am unity." He says that with a capital U, may I add. And I always, like, in my head, I'm like, is that going to be like a new shard? He's going to, like, Dalinar's not going to take up one shard, but a few shards and be like, unity.
Oh.
I'm taking it to the next level, mate. What if he takes up all of them? You could take up all three.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, all three, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because, like, we've always speculated, what does unite them mean? Why is it so important?
Unite the shards.
Yeah, unite all of them. Yeah, or it's unite the bits of honor and take up honor again. But then we have this whole Kaladin might be honor theory. So, look, 10,000%, someone from another person from this story will take up a shard. I'm certain of it. Whether it's Dalinar, Kaladin, or I don't know, Lopen, I don't care who. Someone's doing it, and I like this theory. I like the whole Spren and the Stormfather losing their individuality to make up honor again. I like it.
Yeah, for me, the thematic ties are really strong.
Yes,
and very much the kind of sacrifice I think Brandon would do. So I love it personally, and would not be surprised if this were somewhere near the truth of what we'll get.
Yeah. Oh, I really want to talk about the new secret project, but I can't. I can't because the secret project is great for theories. That's all I'll say.
Well, how about this? In about a month, maybe a month and a half, we will do an implications episode for Secret Project 4. Maybe we'll do all the secret projects. We'll just take a look at everything we have and see what we can extrapolate from the future of Cosmere, Roshar stuff. And that'll give people time to go out and read it.
Yeah, I think if anything, the priority as a Roshar Stormlight fan, it's the latest secret project. If you're going to read any of them.
Yeah, unless if you're a poser.
Yeah, honestly, get out of here, mate.
We're
coming from someone who's read like 100 pages of all the secret projects and finished none. But we don't talk about that.
Videos.
Yeah, that's it. Go to Bookborn, every Cosmere connection, done.
She's wonderful. We do love Bookborn here. Yeah. Yeah, so great Spanreed. Noah, loved it. Keep it coming, and maybe make some more edits, and somehow fit Kremlings in there, and you might have something there, kid.
Yeah, there's a distinct lack of Kremlings in that theory. So
they say if it walks like a Kremling, talks like a Kremling, acts like a Kremling, it might be a stone. Actually,
I was gonna say if it doesn't do any of those things, it's probably a Kremling.
Everything's a Kremling.
Everything. I'm looking at my coffee table right now, and I'm questioning it.
It's like in JavaScript, everything's an object.
Yeah.
that's just for all my
that's
code.
for all the programmers out there.
Yeah. For everyone else struggling through unit tests this week. All right, so the next one is Thomas A. says, "Hey, Christian and Jimmy." Hey, Thomas. "My Spanreed to you this week is on my hot take that Sanderlanches are often my least favorite parts of the Stormlight Archive." By the way, the title of this email is Sanderlanches, and then in all capital letters, suck. Now, this is a hot take. I appreciate it. This is
I love
bravery.
a good hot take. Let's hear it.
When I think of bravery, I think of Goku. I think of D-Day, storming the beaches of Normandy, and then I think about coming out against Sanderlanches.
I think of Thomas.
Yeah,
like we're up the top on our mountain, right? As I said, we're talking to the masses, and Thomas has come out and been like, "Guys, Sanderlanches suck," and everyone's throwing stuff at him. We're like, no, let's hear him out.
Yeah,
let's hear him. What has he got to say?
And here's what he has to say. He says, "Now, don't get me wrong. I love the finale of The Way of Kings as much as the next person, okay? But something in Wards of Radiance and Oathbringer just falls flat. The overly complicated, and why am I reading it like that? The overly complicated and convoluted action seems to reduce all the characters to poorly written versions of themselves. An example, Kaladin loses his personality and becomes a stock standard savior. Loving the podcast, and feel free to roast me harder than Evie in next week's episodes. Tom, fantastic.
Roast me harder than Evie.
Fantastic.
Oh my god, that's gonna be the best email. So
yeah, it's solid.
Best Spanreed ever. Roast me harder than Evie. That's some Abercrombie humor, right?
Yeah, there. Much appreciated. Ooh. Honestly, I loved it.
Oh my god. Okay, look. Okay, so there is something to be said for the. I'll defend Words of Radiance, but I will say, as much as I loved Oathbringer's climax, it is insane. It's all over the place. In terms of the poorly written versions of themselves, Kaladin does kind of turn into an anime protagonist when he's fighting. That's true. But true. As we read The Way of Kings and this whole, like, he kind of does that even now, just picking up his spear. He's like, I was born to do this. Why is anyone shocked? I'm Kaladin Stormblessed. And I'm just a bit like, is there some weird mumbo jumbo Cosmere stuff happening here as opposed to just anime protagonist? Do you get that?
Oh yeah, I mean, we've talked about it. Like, we would hope that, I kind of hope there is something behind it. I hope that there's some more significance to it, because without it, I don't know if I'd go as far as old Tom over here to light a fire, but I would definitely say that there are pieces of Kaladin's arc at times that I don't love.
Like, because for me, right, if I'm not in a Stormlight zone, I remember I was reading something else, I forgot what, but my dad was listening to Stormlight because I forced him into it, and he was in the climax of Oathbringer, and like everyone's having these one-liners and all this stuff. I'm like, I'm not jiving with it right now. But when I read it, when I'm in that world, it works so well for me. So it's all about the context, right? Like if you showed a random person a scene from One Piece, they'd be like, what is this absolute buffoonery?
Oh, that was me. I remember you being like, just watch this. And I was like, nah, son, like, this sucks. And it turns out now I got a One Piece tank top. So
yeah,
it tells you how far I've come.
Yeah, like Seth and Kaladin talk a lot in the air while fighting.
Yes, the monologuing is great, and it's vast. Here's the thing. There are different levels of which people are willing to suspend their disbelief. And for certain people, their bridge might be too far for somebody. And that will vary from readers. What I would say is the overwhelming majority that seems to read these books, don't feel that way. But I like hearing dissenting opinions. I like hearing the people on the other side of the equation at times. And for them that they're telling their truth of what they experienced in the story. So I don't necessarily agree with you, Tom, but I respect
Yeah, I respect the hell out of that, Tom. And look, for me, I somewhat relate, because as I read these secret projects, the pacing is so quick, so damn quick, and the characterization suffers because of that. And jumping from like The Way of Kings Part 2 to a new secret project where it's like blistering pace, action, next chapter, I enjoy it less than just the slower character-driven stuff.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I agree.
Yeah, I'm definitely a slow, methodical, slow burn kind of person. And I do think the Sanderlanches do a lot to pay those things off. Now, Oathbringer, I've always been willing to hear criticisms for, because it's such an oddly structured book. And I do think that there is a significant shift away from some of the more like culture oriented things with the Alethi that I found to be really, really interesting. And that's because we're introducing more about the Parshendi, and then we're getting a lot more stuff with Odium and everything in between.
A lot of Spren Shadesmar lore in Oathbringer. Yeah,
there was things with the Alethi I wasn't ready to move on from. Specifically, I mean, the classism stuff. I actually thought that all that stuff was fantastic in the first two books. And then by the end of book 3, I think it kind of falls to the wayside. Now, there is progress with it, and there are still things going on with it, but it kind of takes a little bit of a backseat because there's other stuff that Brandon wants to focus on, and that's totally fine. So I hear the complaints about Oathbringer. I do. I still love it. I think when I finished it, I said it was my favorite Stormlight book. I am very curious to see if that remains the truth, because
I reckon it might be with the Dalinar stuff.
The Dalinar stuff's great. I don't know on a reread how much I'm going to care about the flashbacks, to be honest. Words of Radiance stands alone for me as like oh, like
the golden standard.
I love it. And,
Yeah.
in retrospect, I've been saying Words of Radiance is my favorite. But on my first reread, when I finished it with recency bias, I did say Oathbringer. So I gotta push back. I think Words of Radiance, I just adore that Sanderlanche. I think it's
loved
his best
it.
work. Yeah.
There's just so many moments in that book. It's definitely the book that has blown my mind the most. After A Storm of Swords.
Yeah, that's my goat. That's my goat.
That's untouchable. But alas, we continue.
Yes. So Tom, thank you, and thanks for being so brave. I mean, my goodness, throw a grenade into the Lost.
Roast me harder than EV. I'll never stop laughing. I think we handled it
quite well. Yeah, I dove on it. But we have another one. Now, this is a bit of a longer one, but folks, I think this is some really good stuff, and it has to do with Hoid. So buckle up your seatbelts for this chawl ride that we're about to go on here. And this is from Alex L. And he says, post this theory on the YouTube videos a couple of times, and I just want your thoughts on this. My theory rant is that Hoid will heavily betray or lead to the death of Dalinar, a major character or Roshar in book 5. So he's saying Dalinar, major character, or Roshar in book 5. I say lead to death because, to my knowledge, he cannot kill due to reasons. If you know, you know. I don't know, to be honest.
It's because I think this is I don't know if this is a Stormlight spoiler or a Cosmere spoiler. I know this. I just don't know how I know this. I don't know if we find out in Stormlight. He held the Dawn Shard, and the Dawn Shard doesn't let him hurt or kill anything, and he can't eat meat. Yeah, that's it.
That's a shame. Cheeseburgers are fantastic. So in Words of Radiance, Hoid tells Dalinar, 1, not to trust him. 2, his goals are not his goals. And 3, he will watch the world burn for his goals to succeed. With tears, yes. Why would Sanderson say this super Cosmere wide quote for him not to follow through? Hoid is the main character of the Cosmere, full of mystery in Roshar. He has his tendrils, sorry, Christian, and every storyline to an extent. How sick of a twist would it be for Hoid was the one to betray Roshar in book 5? How brutal would it be to see Dalinar die because of Hoid? And how epic would it be to finally see Hoid make a real strategic move and finally learn more about his goal than in Stormlight 5? Brando's most anticipated book thus far.
I'm loving it.
Yeah, I'm on the ride right now. I got to really think about this, but there's more. He said, here's the Dalinar death scenario I see. He is looking into the future, and he says, 1, Dalinar wins the Contest of Champions, but really loses without knowing. Terra Odium is how I'm going to say it, said that there is a way to win in Rhythm of War. 2, Hoid is forced to kill him, break Roshar somehow to stop Odium. Far off, but we can't forget Hoid is the most influential, powerful wildcard in the Cosmere. Overall prediction for the ending of Stormlight 5 is Roshar loses, Hoid wins. Hoid epilogue will be a cliffhanger for the ages. I will say one drawback to this series is that Hoid would steal some of the show from Stormlight Archive characters that have been built up, and the journey has been amazing. But then again, when did our beloved wit not make everything about himself? Love the show. Don't need to mention the theory on the show, but would love your brief thoughts on this Hoid anti-hero theory. Well, it is on the show, Alex, and I think this is really compelling theory. I think that there's a chance that Hoid is going to play a major role in 5. I think he will have a major role in Roshar's future. I think he might even have a hand in Dalinar's demise or uprising, but I don't know if he'll be the straight up anti-hero.
Yeah, well, look, in regards to the point about stealing the show from Stormlight characters, I think it's fair to say that Hoid/Wit by the end of Rhythm of War is a Stormlight character, especially with his involvement with Yasna. We got a lot of scenes with him in Rhythm of War, and I think it's going to get even more prominent in book 5.
Yeah.
I think because I believe this is the only like mainline series where Hoid is kind of established as a character of wit, as opposed to a Mr. Cameo kind of guy.
I haven't read everything, but I think that's true. So I'll go sign for you here.
Yeah. So that always struck me when that quote, whenever we read it in The Way of Kings, where Hoid says not to trust him, his goals are his own goals, and he'll watch the world burn for his goals to succeed with tears, but he will still do it. I think that's very telling for Hoid. I think he's always about that greater goal, whatever his goal is. And we've seen him mess people over in certain instances to make that happen. And if your goals don't align with his, I don't think he will hesitate, because like his scale of understanding is so
vast,
so vast, right? So Dalinar's issues are, like a blip in Hoid's existence of thousands of years, right? So if he has to screw over this guy in order to save the whole Cosmere, then he will. Whether it happens in the next book will be interesting. I think I really like this thematically. I just don't know, like you said, the extent of which this would occur. Like, how much would Hoid play a hand in the demise of Roshar, or the changing of Roshar? Because I suspect it will change massively by the end of the next book. Like, there's going to be end of the world-esque things happening. But how much would Hoid have to do with it? I think he'll be mad about Odium messing with his memories. That's for certain.
Yeah, so I think it's likely that Hoid's goals are going to strike us as against the best interest of our protagonist at some point in the Stormlight Archive. Mm-hmm. And it's going to make us feel very conflicted about Hoid at some point. And I think we'll have another, maybe possibly even Cosmere work outside of the Stormlight Archive that would then justify those actions. I don't know what those are. I don't know when it would happen. I do think book 5 is kind of the right time to do it, especially if Brandon wants people to read things outside of the Stormlight Archive, because if you have Hoid do something very controversial that has maybe a hand or an indirect hand in Roshar falling or Dalinar dying or whatever, and you kind of hint to the fact that Hoid had to do it for a reason. And then in this 5-year gap where we're not going to have any Stormlight books, he ends up releasing some other series, like whatever it might be. And there's justification for that in those books. Those books will sell better. So I think it gives incentive to read outside of the Stormlight Archive. But I go back to Brandon saying that he thinks the Stormlight Archive will always be like, I don't want to say Cosmere like as agnostic, because that's clearly not it, but he said you can enjoy it by itself. And I think Hoid causing the downfall of Roshar or killing Dalinar is pretty significant. Like, Cosmere is necessary at that point. I see. Right. So I don't know.
I think he can say that, but I don't think that will be the case. I can't imagine the last Stormlight books being
coherent
without significant portions being a bit of a, like, you have, like, at that point you have 20 years to have, if you're a Stormlight fan, you're going to read other Cosmere works. It's almost guaranteed. I can't imagine reading Stormlight and being like, I am satisfied. I don't crave more between waiting.
Well, there are people who just simply don't know about it. I have a coworker. He actually he quit Stormlight whenever Yasna wasn't dead, the fake out death.
Oh yeah,
it's not technically a fake out death, but it seems like a fake out death. He literally just stopped, and I was like, oh well, you should read him, and then you can read all this other stuff. He's like, he has other books. And I was like, yeah, like he had no idea about.
Wow, I just thought, like, if you're this into it.
A lot of people pick it up at the airport, bro. I think the majority.
Airport crowd.
I think the majority of them probably don't read outside.
Dang. Well, look, I think the line I agree with this. The Hoid epilogue for book 5 will be a cliffhanger for the ages. I think that is without a doubt going to be the case.
Like, there's pretty good.
It's a 5-year
Hoid winning Rhythm of War, right? Like,
yeah, right. Because he's always the epilogue, which is another thing. Like, he is so prominent in Stormlight. I don't think it's far-fetched to say he could do something big. I just don't think it'll be that big. But hey, I like it. My brain's telling me, like, yes, but not to that extent. Like, I could see him lining up the dominoes and kind of walking away. Sort of.
I kind of like the idea. Well, maybe I don't like the idea, but I could see the idea of like having to basically like nuke Roshar to keep Odium contained, something like that possibly. But I think it's more just, for me, what I could expect from this kind of an anti-hero arc is just like Hoid's plans not aligning and seeming to be in conflict with the protagonist from Roshar. So
yeah, I agree with you.
It's going to happen for sure. We're going to be conflicted about Hoid at some point in the Cosmere.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true, because he's been very much like a he's on our side kind of vibe lately.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I don't know what else to say about that one. I think that's I think Hoid is just such a wild card, and I think Sanderson has a very hard task balancing how to use him in this series.
Yeah, and there's also the fact that, like, you know, Hoid is the narrator of some of these stories, and like, wouldn't it be interesting to then reread the Cosmere at the end of it all and realize that Hoid was maybe unreliable at some points, maybe making himself sound better than he should have?
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah,
it's interesting watching him become more of a voice and less of a cameo, because he's good in small doses. I think it's a challenge to. You're kind of selling this whole world on the back of this guy, so you gotta do it right. And Dalinar can handle wit for about 5 minutes.
I can handle about 300 pages.
Yeah, 300 pages and I'm out.
For sure. I think we have time for one more. What do you think?
Yeah, let's squeeze in one more. Why not?
Okay. I like this one because it's relating to the theory from last week's episode with Kaladin, where we were questioning why he apologized to the spear that he threw on the ground.
Oh, let's see.
So Tristan says, "Hello, Kremlings. Tristan here, big fan of the podcast. I had some thoughts about why Kaladin apologizes to the spear he drops after his kata. Kaladin stood up straight and dropped the spear into the pile of weapons. Sorry, he whispered to it, though he didn't know why. I believe it might go back to his childhood. Chapter 37, page 670. Tien is talking about his rock to his mother, Hezna. Hezna, joking, saying the rock is magical. By the way, rock being magical, like we said, talked about earlier. Interesting. But Tien says, Ord has a spren. Do spren live in rocks? Hasina says, spren live in everything. Kaladin not agreeing at first, says they can't live in everything, along with talks of dung. So looking at this, I feel by the end of this discussion, Kaladin is on the fence of spren living in everything, but maybe he starts to believe more about what his mother said about the spren when he has his very own interesting spren. So in short, I think Kaladin apologizes to the spear, but can't understand why, because the memory of his mother and brother discussing spren being in all things. So essentially, I believe he's just apologizing to the spren he tossed on the floor. Keep them safe hands covered. And we always do, Tristan. But I think that this is an interesting thing. It's almost like Kaladin reconciling a disagreement that he had with his mother. And he only was able to then agree with it by actual application and demonstration, right? Of this spren being with him.
Sorry, I'm just I got sidetracked and I pulled up the chapter and I'm just looking for something. There's just so much. We're gonna go mad on this chapter.
I mean, also, by the way, joking saying the rock is magical is quite a thing there.
Yeah, like maybe it's magical. Yeah, Sanderson, we see you.
Yeah,
you're not slipping that one past us. Yeah, I get you, boy. Look. Sorry, can you read? Sorry, I was totally engrossed. No,
you're fine.
There. What was your question? Sorry.
No, so I mean, essentially, I think what we're trying to say here is that Kaladin maybe is reconciling the disagreement he had with his mom because he's now seen a demonstration of a spren being around and having a personality and being something significant, and maybe not even consciously he's accepting the fact that spren might be in everything, and he doesn't recall this conversation with his mother until later, possibly. But like, it's like him,
a subconscious thing.
Yes.
Ooh, I like that. That makes perfect sense. But wouldn't it be so much more exciting if he was reincarnated with this knowledge of the spren? It's just like, okay, yes, I love that. It makes so much sense. But the fact that it's a spear felt a little more telling to me that it was his weapon. You know, because that's where the spren form. In every bond, they form as like your weapon or your shield or your armor. So it's not like he's saying sorry to like the rock he nudged or the rock bud he squished on his bridge run. He's saying it to his spear. That's why I whilst this theory makes sense and it's likely, I just still think that the spear sends me in that direction of like it's to do with the whole Radiant thing as
And
opposed to
Kaladin being significant as well, right?
yeah, that's where I'm leaning with it. Although this, I would be totally happy if this was the case, where it's just like it's a hark back to that. It's the Sprenner in everything, sort
I
of thing.
think both things could also be correct, actually.
Yeah.
I think it can have dual meanings here. I'm going to throw in Tristan. Thank you so much for the span rate. I'm going to throw in Juan as well because he actually adds on to this without knowing that he did.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, he says it's a long-time listener, first-time caller. He crossed out caller and put writer, which is funny. He said, I wanted to comment on the scene with Kaladin and the spear. Personally, I don't think there is a traditional chosen one or reincarnation trope at play. I do think Kaladin is the closest living person to the ideal of honor in Roshar, probably even since he was a child. That is the reason why Syl was drawn to him and why he is called Son of Tanavas by Stormfather, a title that nobody else has. Furthermore, I believe that his deep spiritual connection with Syl is making him understand things on a subconscious level, like the fact that weapons can have personalities or that he should reject shard blades. We actually see versions of both things with the Colin brothers in future books as well. Adolin has a tradition of talking to his shard blades before every battle, signaling the beginning of his bond with Maya, the dead Spren. With Renarin, we see exactly the opposite. Since he is becoming a Radiant by bonding with Gliss, he feels anguish at the dead Spren inside shard blades and makes him unable to touch them. Anyways, maybe all this is true and Kaladin is still some sort of chosen one. Could be exciting either way. Thanks for making the podcast. It is awesome to hear your excitement for the series every week. Just one question. Have you taken the official Radiant quiz? I'm curious to see which night order you guys would belong. Greetings from Spain, Juan. So, Juan, thank you first and foremost.
Cheers, thank you.
I've never done the official Radiant quiz. Have you?
Yes, I have years ago.
Right, well,
on an old stream, which is no longer up. I was an edge dancer.
I might have to do it.
Do it, man.
You would be an edge dancer.
All right. About this email. I mean, this Spanreed. Sorry. What's an email? Never heard of them. Okay. I like it because it's like these past two emails are like the two sides of my brain arguing with each other. Like, is he a chosen one? Is he just... This one at least leans a bit more into the whole magical thing, which I quite enjoy. His deep spiritual connection with Syl is making him understand things on a subconscious level. Is that it, though? Is it like his connection with maybe like I think there is more to that bond with the Spren that allows you to see things. I find it interesting that the most interesting part to me is Adolin talking with his Shardblade. I'd like to read those segments again to see what we can make of those.
Yeah, I think they're going to be very telling as well as just Renarin's just odd behavior all the time. I think that could also be a guide.
I think we can clue into Renarin a lot more now. I remember just being like, oh, Renarin's weird. And never really like trying to figure it out. It was always, I just wanted to find out like what happened to Kaladin. Whenever
I just want to know what's going on with Alpha Sigma Dalinar. You know what I mean?
Like, yeah. Like, is he how those glutes progressing? Sort of.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's going to be fun to clue into that stuff. I think the quote unquote dead eye Spren are going to be a huge book 5 thing. Like that whole trial section in Rhythm of War was big. And just the fact that when Spren die, it's not really death. The screams and all this stuff is leading to something bigger. Yeah. But what I'm most happy about is we're all talking about this seemingly unspoken about scene. That's what's making me happy. Like this scene about him picking up the spear and saying sorry to it. I haven't really noticed this in the forums and stuff. So it's fun that we're picking up on stuff. That's the best part.
Oh, definitely. And, I think I'm still maybe at odds here with Juan Spanreed because I do still think that there's something significant about Kaladin. I don't think he just gets these titles from being like kind of determined. But
yeah, it's like, are they watching everyone and saying, how honorable? Oh, Kaladin's number 1. Oh, wait, he lied to his dad. Now he's number 2. Let's go to, like, I don't know, Faladin in the next village. There's something more. There's something more to this guy.
Yeah, it's tough because I don't have any proof.
Same. It's like, just trust us, guys. We need to get to the son of Tanavast, him getting strung up in the storm. That's what we need. I believe that's in the next part. So we're almost there. And we're going to analyze the absolute crap out of that scene because like he flies over Roshar as well with the Stormfather, and it's like, where does he fly? Why? What does he say in that conversation? I think that's going to be one of the most dense chapters.
Yeah.
Basically, we need more to work with, I think.
Yeah, we do. And this is going to lead me into the actual final Spanreed. I promise. This is the final one.
Wow,
this is another one. And it literally links. So it's from Lucilla or Lucilia. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. I'm going to say Lucilla because that's how it looks like it's pronounced. Yeah. Forgive me if I'm wrong. She says, "Hi, guys. I just finished listening to your latest episode in which you discussed the possibility of Kaladin having some memories from a previous life or being resurrected. That immediately took me back to Warbreaker, in which the gods are returned people who die in some honorable way. Even though they are not supposed to know who they were in a previous life, Lightsong does have flashbacks and feels naturally good at some activities in his new life related to them in a prior life. Thanks for the fun podcast. It's so cool to have these episodes to relive the way of kings while at work. Best wishes, Lucilla." Thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
And I'm just saying, if there's any book that I would want things to tie into, it's Warbreaker, because I love so much about Warbreaker's world building. I don't hate this. I mean, this is certainly it's a jump, right? We're literally jumping to another novel to start talking about this stuff, but I think that's where we're going. And
dude, I'm here for it. Let's go right into it. Let's fully entertain this theory. I'm ready.
So in which gods are returned people who died in some honorable, like, is Kaladin going to become like a god on the planet in Warbreaker? Like,
oh yeah, see, that's what I want. I want to go, let's jump all the way. Okay.
What if in Warbreaker 2 it features Kaladin after Stormlight 5?
Oh my god. Well, he's always like, hasn't he always left Warbreaker? Warbreaker 2 is the working title is Nightblood, interestingly.
Oh yeah.
And Nightblood is currently in Stormlight, is it not? So what's that about?
End up somewhere else?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And where is it now? With Seth. Who's Seth with? Kaladin. Oof.
What if? All right, hear me out here. I'm about to go off, and it probably doesn't make any sense. So forgive me, all the people who actually know what they're talking about.
Those are the best theories.
What if Dalinar unites them at the end of book 5, but he starts to lose himself to odium, and Kaladin has to slay him with Nightblood?
Oh, yeah.
And Kaladin dies in the process, and somehow ends up on the Warbreaker planet with Nightblood for Warbreaker 2. I don't know. I'm going.
You know what I like? I like you talking about Dalinar uniting the shards, but the three distinct personalities are like at odds with each other, kind of like Shallan. I like that.
All right.
I like that Kaladin, because we have this thing about like Dalinar and Kaladin are the highest likelihood of getting the shards. Yeah, but what if like Dalinar has it and then Kaladin has to get it off him or something? What if it's like shard hot potato sort of thing?
Oh. Or Dalinar thinks he can handle it and he can't.
Yeah.
Like,
here we go.
What if Kaladin has to mercy kill Dalinar?
Yeah, see, that's what I'm all about. And he's like, thanks for taking me into Bridge 4. He's lost Syl because Syl's gone up.
To form honor?
Yeah, and now he's losing Daddy Dalinar.
Oh my god.
Here we go.
Oh, that's some...
And then Adolin's like, dude, you killed my dad. And he's like, no, he's no longer your dad.
He's no longer your dad. Here's a new jacket. And he's like, oh, sick.
Yeah. He's like, oh, is that new embossing? Ooh.
Renarin's like, I have a Rubik's Cube. And everyone's like, okay, Renarin, it's fine, dude.
Oh, Renarin. And then like the theme song plays. And straight up sitcom Stormlight. Everyone pats him on the back. Oh, Renarin again.
So Kaladin's gonna kill Dalinar after he becomes Odium and unites them. And
wow, we really went with that theory.
I don't think that's
the theory.
Well, that's really where the Spanreed was going.
Dude, why I'm so excited is that, of course, like there is full on evidence that this can happen in the Cosmere. What the heck?
It can.
The Warbreaker reread needs to happen now.
I would love to reread Warbreaker. Like, no lie. I actually really like Warbreaker.
Oh my god, dude, Kaladin's, that has got me way more jazzed about my reincarnation chosen one theory.
Pretty much confirmed at this point.
as you can tell, I'm very stubborn with my theories. It's like every email is like, hey, maybe it could work like this. I'm like, that's nice, but no, he's reincarnated, surely. Look at all my lack of evidence.
And then
Believe me.
I take it and go way 1 step or 10 steps too far.
Yeah, you're like Dalinar is a hamburger or something. I don't know.
How does Nightblood get to Warbreaker 2? Here's the problem. Does Warbreaker 2 happen before or afterwards of Radiant?
Yeah, it's the timeline, right? Because like, why the hell are people from Warbreaker on Stormlight?
That's
I'm
right.
inclined to think that it's the middle. It's the bridge.
It's the bridge to get them there. So I don't know if that really.
I don't know, dude. Because like Zahel or Vasha, however you want to call him, is in Rhythm of War. He's also in Words Radiance. But remember, in Rhythm of War, he's like fighting Kaladin. They have a duel. And he's using the Warbreaker magic. He awakens his like rug or whatever. He's like a rope, and they have this fight. But then he's never in the book again. So I'm like, why did you put him in there? Was it just
because he knew Kaladin from the Warbreaker world when he used to be a god on the Warbreaker world?
Oh my god, yeah, Kaladin's from the Warbreaker planet Nalthus, and he was reincarnated on Roshar somehow through Cosmere Mumbo Jumbo.
Oh my god!
And he's actually the son of Tanavast, who was also on that planet. Let's
go,
guys. This is the quality content. Hey, this is, I think, every Spanreed episode past an hour. Like the gloves come off. The safe hands are not covered.
No,
I'll admit it. Jimmy took his glove off. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. The gloves off.
I'm just doing that and just smudging oil stains on my leather-bound Way of Kings right now. Just get it.
Is that really the last Spanreed, mate? Have we finally?
We didn't catch up. We have plenty more, but I think it's a good place to stop. I think because there's some other ones in there that are really long, that are super well thought out. I think some of those might fill a half an episode, possibly. Okay. So we have plenty more Spanreeds from you all. And like I said, we might do another Spanreed episode at some point. We'll probably sprinkle them in when they make sense, especially if what we're reading has to do with it. So continue to send them in, please. And we love hearing your thoughts about like where we are in the book and where we're about to go. So if you have any comments on, like, for instance, the interludes that we're about to read, we'd love to hear your theories about them.
Absolutely. This is fun, man. It feels it's a nice break of the reread. It's cool to get into the more current discourse about the series.
Definitely.
And I think we should make these. Let us know if you want this to be like a mainstay of Lost in Roshar, the Spanreed episodes. I think it would be fun to sprinkle them in.
Yeah, after every part, maybe we can just do a Spanreed and kind of reflect on part 2. I had planned on maybe doing a little bit of a post-mortem on part 2, but I think we've kind of covered it. I mean, the big thing out of
these interludes, I really want to talk about them.
Yeah, so and we're going to do that next episode. So that'll be a lot of fun. We'll look for your Spanreeds at lostinroshar@gmail.com. And again, if you send them in and we haven't done them yet, we'll eventually get to them there at some point.
Yeah. The response has been great, guys. Thank you so much. And thank you, as always, for accompanying us on this episode of Lost in Roshar. Remember, the most important chapter a man can read is the next one. We'll see you next week to dive into the second set of interludes and possibly some more Spanreeds from you guys.
Yes, and if you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, be sure to leave us a review on whichever platform you listen on. It helps the podcast out tremendously. When you drop a review on something like iTunes, it really does go very far in their algorithm. And if you have feedback, questions, or theories, Spanreed us at lostinroshar@gmail.com. We'll see you next time on Lost in Roshar. And remember to keep that safe hand covered.